On today's episode of the Real Recovery Podcast, episode number 48, we are thrilled to welcome Chris M. Chris opens up about his incredible journey through addiction, recovery, and rebuilding a life filled with purpose. From navigating the challenges of early recovery to finding a supportive community, Chris shares heartfelt insights and hard-earned wisdom. This episode is a powerful reminder that resilience and connection are key to lasting recovery. Tune in for a story of hope and transformation.
Hello, and welcome to the Real Recovery Podcast. I'm Julie, your co-host. On this journey of healing and transformation, together with my co-host Peter, we dive into the heart of recovery, sharing stories that resonate with courage and inspiration.
That's right, Julie. Each episode is a new chapter in this vast narrative of recovery, and we're honored to bring them to you. But keep in mind, the perspectives you'll hear are for informational purposes only and may not reflect the views of the podcast or our partners.
Indeed, while these conversations can be a powerful part of your recovery toolkit, they are not substitute for professional medical advice. We encourage you to seek guidance from your healthcare provider for any treatment-related decisions.
And if you're facing an immediate crisis, or if you just need to talk to someone who understands, don't hesitate to call the Recovery Crisis Line at 503-223-8569. That number is also on our website. Help is available 24/7.
Now let's begin our episode
of Recovery, Real Recovery.
This is Julie and Peter here with Chris. Welcome.
Hi.
Chris is from our group, and so grateful you came tonight. Really grateful. I think we've had a connection for a while. We get along, and I love that. We want to hear your story and how, what it was like and how you made it to recovery, So how was your childhood? How did you get started in the awful business of meth?
In the addiction business?
Yeah.
Well, thanhanks for having me first. This is really pretty honor. This is an honor.
Hopefully it's comfortable for you here, and not too intimidating. So I hope you can relax and just kind of chit chat with us.
Yeah, the decor in here is very cool. If I get bored of hearing myself talk, I'll just zone out on the decor.
Peter's very, very crafty and very Martha Stewart's twin. Oh yeah, he is.
Yes, I feel very comfortable. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah, I'm doing an IOP. I'm 15 months into my recovery, and I'm doing an IOP, and it's time to reassess the need for it. And so, I was like just in there today, was doing this and talking about answering questions, like what level of trauma did I have at this time of my life and that time of my life? And
for those who don't know, what is IOP?
Intensive outpatient.
Okay.
And I've been sober long enough that I'm participating in the groups for IOP, but my actual level of care is like aftercare.
Okay.
Is what they said.
I love that.
Yeah. And it sounds like I'll be able to keep it going for another year.
I love that for you. I told you, I feel the longer, the people that just go in 30 days and then come out and don't have a foundation are not as successful. It's true,
Yeah. When I went to rehab, they said that, they had a bunch of clinical statistics and, like meth, it still sometimes blows my mind that like I became accustomed to like meth just being a thing that I do, and to hear how destructive it is and how the statistics for long-term recovery are terrible. And
I know with my trauma, and I went to IOP sober at 25 years sober for mental health. Mm-hmm. And with the stuff that I went through, which I never dealt with until 56, 8% of the people with my conditions in prison and working in the sex field and all that, only 8% make it and recover. So I get it. And meth was my drug of choice. I was an IV drug user. So you can't tell now.
Oh, man. It's amazing that we survive.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's not easy. But I think you, like me and Peter, we have such an amazing home group. Like, not every group is like that. Peter started off at a different group and he didn't feel...
Well, it was a more conservative group. And it was just because of who I am and my story, I just didn't feel I could be fully honest with myself to the group because it was very conservative. And so that hampered me. That's my thing, you know. And I believe honesty is very important for me and my recovery. And so finding a group where people were open and were like me and open to hearing my story, and I didn't feel like I'd be judged or looked at differently or anything. That was so helpful because then I could be fully open and honest with who I am, what I went through. And the other thing about the group that I am in now is a lot of the people have similar stories, which is, you look for the similarities. I hear that over and over and over, but it's true. It really does help to find people that you can say, hey, that's just like me. And then you could talk about it, you know?
Yeah. I think all of our stories are different, but they're all the same. Does that make sense?
Regards, yeah.
You know, Peter and I are completely different and exactly the same. You know what I mean? I believe that. It's just like we've been talking a lot about the meaning, and we're all there for the same reason.
Right.
So that's where we're exactly alike, you know?
And meth was your main drug, or did was alcohol, did that play in your addiction as well? Or
as soon as I left home and went to college and was just participating in like the social partying, real quick dependency showed up. And alcohol kind of always bothered my stomach, but I still did it anyway.
Same here. So I'd never blackout drunk. I've never drunk and drive. So like, alcohol gives me a stomach ache. I can't stand the taste. And I didn't do a drug until I went to college either. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I went to Portland State downtown and talked about a little girl getting sucked up. I mean, I went to a Catholic school and I went to Portland State at 17.
Downtown.
Big mistake. Yeah.
So what did get you into using? Was it, for me, it was, I was uncomfortable with myself and who I was, and I tried to quell all those feelings. That's how that's where I've come to the crux of it for me. What was it for you?
It started out as having fun.
Me too.
Yeah, it was. And that's the thing that's so funny thinking back about how alcohol wrecked my stomach is I still did it all the time because it was the first thing that was available to me. Weed was still illegal. I was coming up from a country. I grew up in the country. My high school class was like 80 something people.
Oh, wow.
And then went to college in Chicago. Oh. And, my roommate had a fake ID so we could get alcohol.
I had a fake ID. I could buy alcohol. Yeah. But weed might have been illegal, but whoosh.
You had a hookup?
Hookups. Okay. Like I was part of the community. I don't know. It was crazy. There's this place that used to be over on MLK called the Cadillac Cafe. And it's where all the cool brothers took their Cadillacs and they went to this bar. But on the other side of it, there'd be like 10 guys that sold 20 bags of weed. And I would go over there being the only Caucasian person and buy my weed. Did it all the time.
Interesting. Yeah, I was not very outgoing when it came to like, I did eventually get some friends that were like 5 years older and lived near campus. And so very quickly I started spending most of my time off campus partying. And then the inconvenience in my life was like school trying to pass. So like really quickly what started out is like, oh, this is fun. It was so fun that it just so quickly distorted my priorities in life. And so I was paying all these loans. I took out all this money to go to college. I was going to be a high school teacher, but I was spending as much time as possible at my friend's place just getting high and drunk and playing video games. And very quickly, I was having a hard time passing my classes. And ultimately, just I was student teaching, and I was calling in sick so often because I couldn't show up hungover.
Right.
Because I have a mentor teacher right by my side, and I was supposed to do a lesson plan, but I was hanging out drinking. I didn't even do it. And so at one point they said, like, if you call in sick one more time, we can't say that you've completed this program. And that was actually a turning point for me, because I remember I made that decision at home that I went to pick up like a 40-ounce malt liquor, and he had the weed, and we were going to try to beat this racing game. And I told myself that I'm going to have to learn how to be a good person again, because everything that I know the right thing to do is this is the last chance I have to complete my degree, and I'm choosing to not do it. I'm going to choose to do what's fun right now.
I withdrew from 50. I didn't know until I got my transcripts.
Mm-hmm.
I withdrew from 15 classes my senior year and had to take one class. Yeah. To graduate. And it was
just to get enough credits.
Yeah. It was a hot mess, which is crazy because my freshman and my sophomore year, when I hadn't done anything and I was playing basketball, my grades were excellent. I was in this thing. I was part of Augsburg, and like how quickly it goes downhill. It is amazing. And for me too, at first it was a blast. I was at the same club as Peter. I was dancing with all the gay guys, having the best time of my life, till you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like that something has already switched in our chemistry.
Well, I think there's a lot of acceptance, from, like you said, you're hanging out, you're kind of shy, but then you fit in, and these people that you're kicking it with in that lifestyle don't have high expectations, so it's all good.
Yeah. Or some of the people too that I guess that, they were normal people that were able to maintain their college classes. Like there were however many times it was that they actually did stay home and did study. And I was unable to make that responsible decision.
Me as well.
Yeah, I feel like there was something like really early on, like long before things started really going to pieces in my life, that my priority of what mattered in life was already set to feeling good with chemicals. And it took a long time. That was when I was 19, 20, and it wasn't until I was 38. It wasn't until I was 42.
It's a long time.
That I finally, it really crashed.
Yeah. 19 was the age that I got started as well.
Man, we were on the same schedule.
We were. Different lives. But yeah, the same schedule. It's crazy. Like I said, how similarity. And, it's crazy. I just wanted to dance for so long. Like I just wanted to go to the club and dance. I felt so happy. And I actually think that maybe for me, that because I had so much trauma, I never felt it when I was high. I never thought about it.
Right.
I never.
That's why I drank, was to escape those feelings that I had. And it was like I became a different person. And all of a sudden I was popular and accepted, and, the life of the party. And when you're young and you're in your 20s, I say young, like, in your 20, your college years, even a little bit after that, I think, you can kind of get away with that because everybody's in the same mode in a way. But then things kind of changed probably in my, I don't know, I would say my early 30s is when things kind of changed, where everybody else was getting serious. They're getting jobs, they'd graduated, they're having families, whatever it's, they're doing adult things.
Yeah.
But there's Peter still, ending up, drunk as shit in the corner, or whatever, being that obnoxious, stumbly guy, at parties and stuff. And so it was kind of weird how that all evolved. And I just never evolved past it. And I just kind of continued on. It's, that drunken party person.
Mm-hmm. And just finding people that were, still in that mode.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time with retired, at the bar with retired guys that were, that's what they were spending their time and money doing, was just getting drunk all day.
Right.
And, they knew a lot of jokes, I felt like one of the boys, hanging out there. But it was really just it was a dependable place where I could get fucked up.
Right.
And
fit in.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
In a way.
Be one of the dudes.
Yeah.
But it was the opportunity cost for that was, investing in my following through with education.
Yeah. Did you, between the 19 and the 40s, did you, was it just consistent, or did it progress? Did things get worse? Did you have trouble with the law and, homelessness and that kind of thing? Or was it something you kind of maintained, or?
I was pretty manageable. I played music. And so a lot of times it was I would be quote unquote practicing, what are you doing tonight, Chris? Oh, I'm going to be working on music at home. Well, that meant I was going to be playing and drinking a bottle of wine, maybe more. And would I remember anything that I worked on that night? Did I actually advance in what I was playing? I was just getting fucked up. Yeah. And that was kind of my excuse. And so that was for a long time. I played in some bands where it was I don't know that everyone else in the band was also just having an excuse to just get drunk at practice and stuff like that. But it was oh yeah, I'm a musician. I just drink and party and, work on songs and.
And I never knew you played music. That's amazing. Yeah.
Oh man, that was a big deal at the very end. Once I started doing meth, when I started doing meth, my ability to enjoy music just vanished. It was like a switch happened in my brain that music wasn't fun anymore.
Wow.
And so for the 5 years that I did that, I barely played at all. And so once I went to rehab, that was a big kind of identity crisis, now,
what do I do?
Right. I've lost this thing that it was such a part of my identity. And so it's been fun. It's been an inspiration for me in recovery to
get back to the music.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That is really cool.
So what brought you to recovery? So you're going along, you said 5 years of
we were talking
addiction, or.
Yeah, I was working, I got a job at an airline, which was an awesome job. I was a ground crew person. And so I did that. And then I wanted to become a flight attendant. And to be a flight attendant, you get randomly drug tested. And so I needed to stop smoking weed. And so I did. And I was super proud of that. That was one of my biggest accomplishments. And then it also proved to me that I, of course, was not an addict.
You were in control because you could stop smoking weed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and then I was getting involved I also came out right around that time, really gradually, not to my family yet, but I was exploring my queerness. Yeah. Yeah. And so I was exploring that and ultimately ended up in, some sex party situations with meth. And I wasn't doing it, but I was okay with other people doing it. And then I had a great time with them. So I hang out with them more. And then pretty soon I do that. And so as a flight attendant, I thought I did the research online, meth goes through your body really quickly, so.
Especially compared to weed.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was confident. I was okay. I still thought I was having fun. I had kicked the habit of weed and I was doing this job that I really loved. And I was doing, and it started out at the beginning of my using like once a month. And then it became every time I would come back from a trip and be at home, I would start doing it. Mm-hmm. And then I would stop, and enough time to like kind of sober up for work. But it wasn't that long, a few months of that before I was doing it.
When you get tired. I know, same for me. I used to the MDA dealer got busted. Mm-hmm. And I thought, seriously, the meth was going around, right? Instead of the MDA. And it looked the same. So I thought it was going to be the same. I'm dead serious. This is how dumb I was. And so I started snorting meth and I still danced all night at the club. I thought that was great, but I was tired during the weekdays and school. I could maintain school when I was just doing MDA and smoking weed. It was, just party for the weekend and then go to school. But once I started doing meth, I started getting tired, which then I had to do more, and that's how I got in the pattern of doing it. And then with the escort service, it was just one went with the other. Yeah. I never went on an escort call if I wasn't high, period.
So did you you had to crash too, right? Like if you're doing it.
So I'm going to tell you, once I started, first I snorted it, then I swallowed it in a capsule. But again, I got a stomach ache. So then I shot up. Okay. And once I shot up, that was the only way to do it. And I would stay high for a long time. Like, I don't know, sometimes 5 days, and then I would sleep and then I would make sure I got high again right when I got up so that I didn't feel all the body aches and the pain. Okay. It was the first time I woke up after staying up for a few days. I couldn't believe how much pain I was in just walking to the bathroom. And I never wanted to go through that again. So if I was going to sleep, I would make sure I had drugs. It's like just like an alcoholic having a drink in the morning to get over the shakes.
Yeah.
Mine was.
That's how I was.
Yeah. Mine was to have a hit to get over the body aches, body aches versus shakes. And and I was better than some at managing the dosage. Like I never did more than 20 cents, where a lot of people keep upping the tolerance. I never did.
Wow.
Yeah. This girl I was with that I was dating told me not to do that. And so I never did. And she taught me a lot of rules. And sometimes this bitch gets on my nerves for real. Well, because she broke my heart. She went to the grocery store to get milk and never came back. For real. And I was all in. I was young. It was my first big romance. And she was the one who stuck the needle in my arm for almost 3. So I didn't even know how to get high without her. So it was, I had bought a needle one night at the city nightclub after I did an escort call. And I was like, oh, I got the needle, right? And was waiting for her. And she said, who did you get this needle from? And I told her who it was, and he's dead. I said, Michael Clark. And she went and flipped out on him because it was a dirty needle. She could tell. And I was so dumb, I didn't know.
Wow.
And she was like, how the fuck are you going to sell my girlfriend a dirty needle? And so literally there was some things that she taught me, right, that probably saved my life. I never used a needle after anyone, which I'm lucky again, because my daughter's father used one after me and so did she, but I never used one after anyone.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. In the hindsight,
Yeah.
she literally, I believe that night probably saved my life because that person that I got the needle from had AIDS later on. So did he have it at that time? I don't know.
Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah. Kind of crazy.
Interesting.
And because she said, don't ever do more than this, I never did any more than that. Yeah, it was crazy. I didn't even know how to mix up drugs when we broke up. Like, I was dumb, like really dumb. Yeah. Crazy shit, huh? Then I paid somebody to inject me. I paid a nurse for a long time when I did the escort service. So because of that, I had to schedule how I got high because I couldn't do it myself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Crazy shit, huh? Not only paying for the drugs, but paying to inject them. But I had a lot of money at that time. I had more money in drug addiction than I've ever had in sobriety.
Man,
Yeah.
that like slavery, like to schedule everything in life around that.
Well, and the scheduling of looking good, you know, with the escort service,
Mhm.
to make big money, you have to look good. Like I would say my best role, and it was a role, was like going to the Benson Hotel and looking like I went to Reed College, you know, pleated skirt, blazer with the gold buttons, nails perfect, hair perfect, tan. I got my nails done like 4 times a week just to switch the colors. It was insane. It was insane, but you'd make the big money that way, you know? So yeah, the look good was really important. So back to you, because I've done my podcast now. It's crazy how different shit comes up. We were doing a podcast the other week, and this lady was talking about stealing dresses from Nordstrom's, which I was like, oh my God, I stole bras. She stole $1,000 dresses. I stole $500 bras. Too funny.
Yeah. The crossovers between our stories sometimes are really
that was
wow.
insane. And then she says she was in the entertainment field, which is the best one yet. Instead of, you know, prostitution or escort service, she says entertainment field. And I like that. I might use that in the future. Yeah, I really like that one. It's just like my other friend says their son went to camp, and camp is prison. And I was like, well, you remember when I went to camp? Because that way no one hears you talking about it.
That's a good way to do it.
So you're working for the airlines.
Yeah.
You're managing it.
Yeah. And just getting loaded as soon as I got, you know, home from a trip. And then eventually, you know, getting high because I didn't sleep for 3 days. So I'm getting high like the morning that I'm leaving on a trip. And who knows what, you know.
I can't even imagine tweaking on a plane. Oh my God.
Every time I would say, this is the last time I'm ever doing this. And it was really super anxiety producing.
I'd be paranoid. Yeah.
I love the job though. And I'm a pretty high energy person. So I played it off.
And you're kind.
Fairly
and that goes
well.
a long way.
Yeah, I wasn't like an angry tweaker. And I honestly, on my trips, you know, like I would drink energy drinks and I would be like staying awake because until that first hotel night, as soon as I get to the hotel, I'm starting my recovery. And then I was always trying to do like 4-day trips, which is kind of our maximum, because that would be 4 days that I would get some sleep and I would eat and I'd restore myself.
So you were on a schedule too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was. And when I wasn't in the escort service, when I was just selling drugs at the city nightclub, I would get high Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, start to get stoned on Sunday, and recover Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I wouldn't do drugs on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday for a while. Yeah, it was a pattern. I always use weed to come off the meth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was like one went with the other. And honestly, I don't think I could have gotten off meth at the most important time that I needed to when I got pregnant, had I not smoked weed. And the doctor told me, it's okay. Keep smoking the weed. Just don't use the meth. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's crazy how you rationalize or you can have cross addiction.
Yeah, for me, those breaks they felt like I was kind of ready for them every time because I would just starve myself of sleep and food. I would be just, these kind of wild party scenes. And then I was physically exhausted, like a lot of times that's pain, like my body was like wrung out from doing a lot with very little fuel. But eventually I had a vacation, like a 13-day vacation. And so I had plans, of course, to do something, but I ended up just doing meth for 13 days. And then I went on a 3-day trip after that, and I got randomly tested. And so I thought I was fine because meth goes through your system in 3 days, no big deal.
Not when you've done it for 13 days. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I failed it. And in like, I feel like there's a lot of like spiritual coincidences for me. And the fact that I had this job, pretty low paying job, but I was a member of a union. And when I found out that I failed it, the first person I called was my brother. And I called my brother when I took the test. And he was the one like, no, you're fine. It goes out of your system in 3 days. You're going to be fine, Chris. But then when I got the call from the drug testing agency, I called the union bawling, what do I do? And it's amazing. They said, pack your bags. We are going to send you to rehab before the company knows you failed this test.
Absolutely.
And that's the beginning of my recovery story.
Wow.
Oh, and the rehab that I went to was amazing. They had a program for meth and sex, the co-addiction.
They go hand in hand.
Oh, dude. That was a miracle.
I think that especially for me, when I sold meth, it went hand in hand with the gay life and the sex. I think it for me too, it brings on uninhibited sex. You are much more courageous. Yeah. Tweaking and freaking. I think that truly is like the appeal, I've stayed in a hotel with a girl and done that as well. Never with a boy, but with a girl. Yeah. And I think also that is the appeal when people get sober. I've seen a lot of guys relapse behind that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's been an important part of my recovery is that my sponsor had this similar addiction. So he understood.
Nice.
And that was something that he didn't personally walk me through, but we really talked a lot. And after doing this rehab program about, that was all about abstinence, for a period of time, resetting your brain. We did this like 90-day pause with like no flirting, no kissing, no pornography, no masturbation to kind of reset your brain. And after all of this, it was really, my sponsor made it clear that it was important to find safe, sober, sexual situations to begin to give your body something new so that I wasn't reliant on those memories of drugs and sex.
Amen.
And that's another miracle, there's someone that I met while I was in rehab, that, after we were done, we connected and we already had like a lot of connections. So it was a safe person that we could like,
nice,
get sexual and then stop, and be like, does this feel weird to you? Because it does to me, and not have that pressure like it was an actual date or something.
Yeah.
And thank God for that. And that took away, by having a healthy, sober sexual situation, it did lay a new mental
foundation. I agree. I also think sober kissing is 1,000,000,000% better than drunk or tweaking kissing. I'm dead serious. Like 1,000 times over. Like I feel like my kisses are worth $1 million. If I give you one, you won the fucking lottery.
Yeah.
And when you're high, I don't know that you're thinking about kissing. You know what I mean? It's When you're drunk, are you
Oh my
thinking about
gosh.
kissing?
Right.
It's crazy the difference.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even think about having sex with you if you couldn't kiss.
Yeah.
I'm curious because of a previous guest, they used to frequent bathhouses and places like that, and they're able to still continue in sobriety.
They're one of the only
In that-
people that
Yeah,
I've ever met.
I'm just like, if I was put back into the situations that I was in when I was in my addiction, I don't know that I could handle it. How is that for you?
Yeah, that's a no go.
Same here. I don't put myself ever in compromising situations.
There's some things that were specific to that drug environment that I don't want to try to do it
That
again.
person
Right,
is
right.
they're in our group and they've been on our podcast, so it's not a big deal. But to me, they are an anomaly, meaning they are the only person I know that could get sober and frequent the bathhouse. And that, I think, is because they still wanted to have the same sex. But I personally couldn't be in any of those situations.
Yeah. Well, even for me, just going to bars or parties where I used to be that guy, and I would get extreme anxiety.
It's, as a sober person,
that I couldn't even do it. I would turn around and I would avoid it.
But look at you now, Mr. Disco at the gala.
Well,
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm as I get more time and I think my tools get stronger, or I have more tools, and I hone those tools, I'm able to experience more. But then I go in with a different mindset too. My mind
And a
is
different person.
Yeah, I'm just.
You get your sober squad with you.
Yeah, true.
Actually, I'm his bitch when it comes to these galas and stuff. And Peter's my man. It's so funny because people ask me sometimes, is that your husband? And I'll be like, no, he has his own husband, and it's funny. But yeah, seeing that does make you uncomfortable. You've done really well this year. We've been at a lot of galas.
Right. Well, though those are a little bit different because they are sober events. But, going back into a club, let's say just to go dancing, that's a normie club, they used to bring on such anxiety that I couldn't even do it. I couldn't even go. I'd turn around and come home because I was so, I don't know, just the anxiety of it, of that experience of it brought back all of those feelings, all of those thoughts. And I felt in danger.
Was it a craving or was it just uncomfortable?
It was uncomfortable, and it was a fear, I think more of a fear that I would go back to where I was.
Or you would want to feel comfortable by having a drink.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. It was that anxiety of what do I do? Because for me, that was how I was able to
fit in.
I pre-functioned every time we did anything. People over for dinner, I pre-functioned, to get myself to be comfortable. And then of course I continued throughout and so yeah, that I was just so fearful of, how can I even function without it? How can I didn't know how to integrate with anybody, without having that drink.
Yeah, for me, I'm lucky. Luckily for me, like being outgoing, it was never the drugs that made me feel comfortable. I was already outgoing as fuck, so I didn't need that. I think the other part of the attraction for me was I lost weight, and I never got skinny and sucked up. And people would tell me all the time, oh my God, you look so great. Oh. And so I would be like, okay, and literally I've thought about, well, if you just got high for 6 months and lost some weight, right? A little Ozempic plan, or something like that. It kills me that now that they inject that, I don't think I could do that, even if I wanted to. But I've only been thin 3 times, and one of them was thinner. In prison, going through boot camp, I was fucking She-Ra after doing all the push-ups and the runs and everything. I came out and I could probably kick your ass for sure. And then the other 2 times are when I was high. And I remember being at Grand Central Bowling Alley, And I got a quarter from my girlfriend and put it in the scale, where you put the quarter in and you get weighed.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't believe it said 123 pounds or 132 pounds. I don't know which. So I went and bought a roll of quarters and kept doing it all night because I was so excited by the numbers. Talk about some stupid shit.
Tweaking.
Yeah, tweaking. Do you know, and I hate that word. When I went to the CMA meeting and they're like, oh yeah, I'm a tweaker. I'm like, really? You fucking say that shit out loud? Yeah, because I didn't like to hang out with tweakers.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I didn't like to buy meth from tweaker drug dealers. I would rather buy it in big, large quantities so I didn't have to go around them.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I think of that word. I think of
we were at the meeting together,
energy.
weren't we?
Yeah, I was there for it.
Dude, that was an experience for me. I have never since, but that's the only CMA meeting I've ever been to.
Oh, CMA was a huge part of my recovery because I got sober in LA and they had, I think that's where it started.
Oh, wow.
And so my first experience in like 12 steps was the rehab, like letting us go in the van to a AA meeting, so I got to see that. But once I got a sponsor and we went to some CMA meetings and there was this one on Saturday mornings, it was this huge meeting, in a gym,
wow.
real big meeting. And it was where I saw people having fun, like the people that would be having fun at the bars.
Right.
Making a spectacle, these characters.
James killed me that night. When he first screamed out and hooped and hollered, I was like, what the fuck? I really was. Yeah. You don't know. Like, they are loud.
It's like Rocky Horror Picture Show.
It is.
And AA mixed together.
It is. And thank God, like half of them, probably 2/3 are guys I already know from AA, but CMA wasn't around when I got sober.
Mm-hmm.
So I think AA was the easier, softer way. Seriously, I didn't have to deal with a lot of bad memories until I had to process them.
Yeah, I can relate. There was a period of time that I didn't like going to CMA because I was still dealing with cravings. Mm-hmm. And so people sharing their experience in a meeting, which is a safe place to do it, I would leave the meeting in a more agitated,
triggered from it. Yeah.
That's where I think AA was good for me because I wasn't emotionally or physically triggered in an AA meeting.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing for me. It was just, I didn't trust anybody until I went to an AA meeting. Like I said, it took a while, but that's where my trust began. It's crazy. Like, you have your brother and your family. I'm an only child. It really wasn't until I got my sponsor, my first sponsor, is probably the first person I trusted in this whole world, which is crazy, right?
That's like a miracle that you found a meeting and a person that you...
Can I tell you, and I don't want to get emotional, like you said, go into treatment and it worked out for you for the union. It overwhelms my brain sometimes. One, that I'm sober. Why did I get to be so lucky, right? Because there's so many people that aren't. And then how did I get to that meeting, right? And how did I get to stay? That's been my meeting for almost 28 years. Holy shit, And I don't know who was looking out for me because I had cravings to use for almost 3 years. I don't know when it was removed. I don't know. I can't tell you this day or that day or whatever, but I just knew it was, and I was so scared of relapsing. I was really scared because I had relapsed before, but before I went to AA and I would get 6 months, 18 months, and the last person I got high with is dead. My daughter's father is dead, so there's been a lot of death around me from drug overdoses as well. It's crazy though. Our meeting, I believe, saved my entire life and gave me the opportunity to be a good parent and a productive citizen that pays taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the meetings matter.
Oh, yeah.
To that, like different, we all have different personalities and things that appeal to our different, our differences. But to be able to find an early recovery, a meeting that checked off some boxes for your personality that you needed.
I felt safe. Nobody wanted to sleep with me, right?
Oh, yeah,
They
it's
didn't
gay
want to
meeting.
sleep with me, and I didn't want to sleep with them. And there was a lot of older guys in the beginning.
Mhm.
When I went, Scott C. was there. Daryl was there, a few of them. And it was just really comfortable for me. And then Jen L was the second girl that ever came. And that was like, we really bonded. And thank God she likes sports and stuff. She wasn't a fluffernutter. I don't think I could have handled a fluffernutter, a Barbie.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. But Jen's so real. And she stayed sober this whole time too. So.
Yeah. The CMA meetings that I went to in LA, there was a Saturday one that was like a big show, and then there was a Sunday evening one that was a round robin. And it was at the same time as the AA meeting that was like the big production, everybody gets dressed up. Everyone brings their little lap dogs,
Oh, wow.
It was that AA meeting. It drove me nuts. Like I did not like all of the pomp and circumstance. And so I went to the small meeting and it was like all of the like introverts and like quiet people. And it was an important meeting for that group because they weren't inclined to share in a big rambunctious meeting.
Mm-hmm.
But in this round robin, you just show up and you share, you can tell your sponsor that you shared at a meeting, or
Yeah. Or your
Whatnot.
parole officer. Whichever. Right. No, I agree with you. I like smaller meetings to this day.
It's something we talk about often is if you're not comfortable in a meeting
Mhm.
that you're at, find another one, because there's one out there that you'll find that's right for you, right?
Mhm.
There's so many different, especially nowadays, they have meetings, for different cultures, different sexualities, different so people. I mean, small groups, big groups. If you want to be that person that's out there, in front of the crowd, then you can do it. There's a meeting for you, and that was something that I had to learn, and I'm glad I did because I was dipping in and out until I found the meeting that we have now, that we go to now, that I was comfortable with and felt like, okay, I can be myself. Because part of my story is I wore a mask for most of my life, or many masks, I hid. I wasn't my true self. And so it's really important for me to be able to be my true self, especially in a recovery setting where it's so intimate and personal at the same time.
That's honestly Colette's little meeting at Another Chance.
Mhm.
It's been my new favorite meeting.
Mm.
It's small, it's intimate. There's all different kinds of recovery there. And, 2/3 of them are coming out of treatment and have new recovery. And then there's a few old timers sprinkled in and a couple in between. But I have really grown to like that meeting. And then I also like, sometimes there's opportunities when you go to a group for a long time. Sometimes the personalities come out too much. And if you hurt my recovery bubble, I avoid it. Does that make sense? I avoid conflict in any AA meeting. It's not why I'm there. Yeah.
Like if you're going to the meeting and it disrupts your...
If there's a disruption in the meeting,
Mhm.
I promise you I won't be in that situation. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's only happened to me a few times. I'm going to tell you, there's probably only been 3 or 4 meetings that I've ever really felt uncomfortable in. But again, I've never 13th step. I've never slept with anybody in AA.
Mhm.
So I keep that part clear. AA is for recovery, not to find a boo,
Right.
So that's been really clear for me. And then if people argue with each other, which is why I don't go to business meetings, me personally, it's
Mhm.
not a nice thing to do, but I don't do it. I don't like it takes away from my USA. Because I can go to an evening meeting and by the time I'm done, I am 100% relaxed.
Mhm.
My brain is good. I'm not usually worrying about 7,000 things. And then I go from there to like my evening relax. And when I'm working, that evening meeting totally calms my brain.
Yeah. It's a special meeting though. I feel like, some meetings that I've been to are, for me, hit or miss, where like I'll always get something out of it. But sometimes it's like I get to practice acceptance because things are, like I get agitated by things, or I always get annoyed when I'm at a meeting where it seems permissible for people to talk while other people are talking.
Mm-hmm.
And like the fact that our meeting is generally, it's lucky, but there isn't a lot of that happening.
Right. Crosstalk, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Or just, I'm talking to the person next to me and I don't know how to whisper.
Yes.
And, it's distracting for me sitting wherever I am in the room.
Well, you haven't been to many with Izzy present. No, I'm just kidding.
or Robin and my sponsor
That's
taking
true.
selfies, sending
they
it
were
to
a little bit.
Manolo on Friday, right? No, I agree with you. What I like about online too is that we tag each other.
Mhm.
So there's not two people speaking at once. There's the speaker and whatnot. And that kind of prevents that too. And I agree with you. There might be 5 people that I get nothing from, but then there's the one. And you never know who it's going to be on that one night that I get everything from, or the thing that I needed. And very rarely has that not ever happened.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's like, I won't know what I'm looking for necessarily. And then they'll say it and I'll be like, oh, hell yeah.
Mhm.
And it really resonates with me. And I'll hold on to that for, a minute.
Yeah. And that's what makes the meeting so compelling, is that you have that, any one of us has that feeling a few times in a row. And then we're showing up to the next meeting with like energy.
Yeah.
Because we've had our like
medicine, our dose.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you.
It's starting to become a reliable source of like what we need. And then we like show up and bring that energy at the beginning.
It's been a very reliable source for me. A very reliable. And I have to tell you, for me personally, Peter has a great family, like for real. I've met them and his mom is like a saint, and I'm dead serious. And his husband and their family, and their sister-in-law is just amazing. I never had that. So I think that AA really, for me, and there's a lot of programs, don't get me wrong, but AA taught me how to live the right way. And it also really set the foundation for me on like, when it says you intuitively know how to handle matters I didn't know how to handle a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up in AA. I think they say when you start using, that's where you stop growing.
Mm-hmm.
So I stopped growing at 19. And then I picked up life again after prison, and I started learning how to be an adult, and do the right thing.
You're still a flight attendant?
Mm-hmm.
So that going through that recovery, you were able to keep your job and
No, definitely lost my job.
Oh,
but the airlines, there's a handful of airlines that work with, there's like a national program with the flight attendant union, and they have developed this program with the airlines where they basically, it's at the airline's discretion whether they hire you back, but you basically have a mentor with the union, and the airline has provided a way for you to basically petition, show, you have to present this portfolio with all your clinical information.
It's like a lawyer. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you do this presentation and they can decide to accept you or not. On the federal level, you have to go through, they have like a drug and alcohol assessment person that you submit your recovery to them, and they 100% of the time will not be satisfied with what you've done. And they'll tell you that you need to do this much more, go to this many more months of IOP, and then they'll sign off for you if you complete it. And so once you go through that process, then the Department of Transportation has cleared you.
Wow.
And then an airline has to agree that they will not only hire you back, but then they have to take on the extra cost of frequently drug testing you.
Oh,
Because
Wow.
when you take that, when you do that assessment with the Department of Transportation, when they sign off on it, they will contact the airline that you're applying for to say, if you hire this guy, we think he needs 2 years of frequent drug testing or 5 years of drug testing every other month or whatever the thing is. We never know. Yeah. So
you went through that process?
Yeah. I was the first person to successfully complete it at my airline.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah. It is an honor, and it took a long time. And it was another thing where it was like, once I lost my job and I'm going through recovery, like I'm rebuilding my life with no hope to get my job back at first. Then I find out about this program, and that was another incentive to stay in treatment as long as possible to try to make it obvious to the airline.
Absolutely. And I think, like I said, I think the longer you stay in a program, the more successful you can be. It's just like, what I think doesn't work is going through treatment in 30 days and going back to what you used to know. I think that's a setup for failure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, changing. Yeah, it was definitely important that I lost my job, because that created the desperation for me to feel like I'm rebuilding my life. Like that
Yeah.
Oh, I
gave me
understand.
desperation.
Yeah.
The process to get back to work, I still do a monthly meeting with the union and whatever the director of base operations with the airline. They sit in, and I'd fill out this form that shows how many UAs and how many meetings I go to and stuff like that. And
I actually love that.
it's cool. I actually, in December, I no longer am obligated to, but I'm still doing it because there are people who, part of this program is those monthly meetings are happening also with people who are up in the application process, trying to get their job back.
So you kind of look like a mentor to them.
I feel like,
That's awesome.
it's cool to be able to have gone through it.
And there's a reason why you got your job back, right? And I don't know what those reasons are, but maybe it is to be a mentor, an example that it can be done, and I think also the fact that you didn't get in trouble, is a big win, because I know in that world, sometimes they come hand in hand, and like God is looking out for you. I think like you said, man, he was looking out for you, which is amazing.
Yeah, spiritual coincidences.
Yeah. I felt the same way about IOP. And Peter, actually, when I was regretting if I had to continue my employment, we won't say too much more than that. Peter was like, I think these are signs.
Yeah.
It was,
The world gives us signs. Life gives us signs.
and then it worked out. And I was like so grateful and felt like somebody was looking out for me too. And getting to go to IOP so later on, I feel like somebody was looking out for me.
You're talking about those meetings, and those were in LA.
The CMA meetings when I was first getting sober. Yeah.
And then, and you were in the program for trying to get your job back.
Mm-hmm.
And then how did that transition to you being here in Portland?
I ran out of money. I maxed out my credit cards paying for sober living and being in LA. Like I just couldn't find a place that I could afford. And so at that stage, it looked like I was still in that program. I definitely didn't have my job back yet, but I needed to go up here where I could afford to live, and then also like put me in position. And, at the time it seemed like a good idea to start to build a foundation here for hopefully when I got my job back. And so I moved up here and got involved with the IOP up here.
I see you doing the real deal. I see you working with your new sponsee that sat by us in the meeting.
Oh, okay.
That I gave the promises to.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Because I was like, this is better for you than me. And I see you like really walking the walk and talking the talk. And I see you being honest. And I see when you're on a trip getting, a lot of people, oh, I can't make it to the meeting, which I think is bullshit because of online most of the time, right? Mm-hmm. And I see you in the hotel room, getting online, going to the meeting. I remember when you first went back to work and you stayed with us. I was like so grateful that you did awesome. That. No, seriously, that's what I would do. Like absolutely what I would do. And I will tell you, the only really bad year I had in AA, as far as just AA goes, I've had shit happen in life because it's life, but was the year that I only went to a few meetings because I was busy working and I should have made the evening meeting my priority. Does that make sense? Because that's how I got overwhelmed.
Well, the other thing for me was, and I think a good message to people listening is, if life is life, things are going to happen, but get right back in there. For me, it was like, no, I got to go back. I was panicky. I was fearful. I thought people were going to just look at me and think, oh, what a loser. I got hugs and welcomes and I got so much support. And so if you have those fears, if someone listening to this, if you are out, come back, because we don't care. We just want you back. We want to support you. We want to give you a big hug.
So I'm going to give you my take on that. The easier, softer way is just to fucking stay.
Right.
I'm just telling you.
That's true.
I am so scared to this day. I am so scared to go out because I don't know if I have enough strength, humbleness, honesty to come back. So if you're come here and stay. I promise you it's the easier, softer way, no matter what you're going through. Because I've seen people not come back. There's a lot of people I see over the years, right? And I think this is why I was really hesitant with the newcomer for a long time. Everybody says the newcomer is the most important, right? Well, my first sponsee that I sponsored died, committed suicide. So wasn't going to do that again, right? And then I was scared of people disappearing because I saw a lot of people come in and never come back. Now I learned so much from the newcomer and I'm not as scared of them. And I'm going to tell you that's a lot thanks to Colette and Marty. I sat there and counted Colette's days with her every single night. The one night she was missing, I'm like, where are you?
Wow.
Yeah, I'm serious. And like her open heart to the newcomer has given me a new take on it. It really has. And I learn from them all the time now. But at first I was scared. So I clung to the Scott C's.
Okay.
Yeah, just because they were safe. And to this day, if somebody is in active addiction, I don't fuck with you, period. I don't put myself in those situations. You can have one day of recovery and be back in a meeting. At our CMA meeting, there was a person that had 1 day recovery. And I know that person fairly well. I've been to their house, and I'm okay with that. But the first NA meeting I ever went to, somebody was tweaking and I left and went to the AA meeting the next day. Thank God.
Yeah, that's one of the challenges for me with the IOP. It is part of the reason why I want to continue to do it is because it is a reminder of the uncomfortable days of the earliest part of sobriety, because there are people coming in and, I would call my sponsor and I'd be like, I can't handle this. Like the energy I am absorbing this tweaker energy.
Right.
This person can't sit still. They just like can't.
Dude, that shit drives me crazy.
Yeah, but for me, it feels like I'm exercising a muscle because that gives me the vision and the feeling in my body of what I don't want.
I agree with you. It gives me a stomach ache.
Yeah, that's like
Yeah.
defense against a craving.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's like as long as it stays fresh.
It sounds like you have a fantastic sponsor.
Oh man, I'm so lucky.
I'm just
so
saying.
lucky. Can I tell you this? The way that I got my sponsor, my roommate, he is a friend of my roommate in rehab. So there's like an hour on Sundays that people can have visitors. And so it's Sunday. My roommate says, hey, my friend is going to come, and he has a kid. He's a gay guy that has a husband and a kid. And so his kid's running around, I'm kind of like playing with the kid while he is talking to my roommate. They're catching up, like he's coming to visit his friend who's in rehab. And I hear him talking about the universe. And I hear him talking about spirituality, but he never once said God. And, that really spoke to me.
I hear you.
And so before he left, I asked him if he was interested in taking me on as a sponsee.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he was down. But it was, he walked into my life because of my roommate. And I saw already, that he has, in his sobriety, he's learned how to have a stable relationship. He's become
That's a God
parent.
shot.
Oh man. And he's so spiritual, but an agnostic, in the sense of like organized religion and
Unlike Tim Kitty Ears, who's always knocking it, like this guy that goes to evening meetings.
Right. Did you talk about spirituality. So did you have that? Like I heard God and I was like, done. I'm out of here. Don't want anything to do with this. Cause that was the religious connotations for me were very negative. Mm-hmm. The God that I, had in my head.
Yeah. I mean, my dad is super religious and I grew up in a real religious community. And they're through like the national news and through like the like social media, like I had gotten the sense that like organized religion creates more hate than love. And over my life have met enough spiritual people that were not Christian that I had just kind of decided that I am definitely do not want to be on that team.
Right.
And so and also like having been familiar with churches, I was a little weirded out with AA because it felt a lot like church. Like, there's the coffee, there's the older people, the elders.
I want you to know that I think AA coffee is absolutely the nastiest, worst tasting shit. I've only drank it 2 times.
Well, in some of the meetings that I've been to, they'd say the Lord's Prayer at the end instead of the Serenity Prayer. So
especially
it is especially
down
church-like.
south.
Yeah. So
and the biggest thing for me that made me feel uncomfortable was this like newcomer thing. Like in an evangelical church, like, oh, here's somebody that's just homeless. We're going to make a big deal out of like turning, saving your life. You're going to get saved by us. And what do we say about the newcomer? The most important person in the room.
Yeah.
The elder people are supposed to give their, reach out to newcomers. And so that felt weird. But having this guy who is a devout AAer that doesn't buy into any of that. And he, like when we were reading the big book, he would say the universe instead of God.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And
I had to learn how to turn the God that's said throughout everything so many times and turn it into what it means to me, because I'm a spiritual person, not a religious person. Mm-hmm. And so I had to do that. And it's gotten so much easier over time. But in the beginning, it was hard. And I was so against it until I think it was a counselor of mine that said, make it a doorknob. And it's a doorknob that you turn, you go, and that opens your way to, and so a metaphor, basically that's what he's telling me, make it your own, whatever it is to you. And over the years, it's progressed or it's evolved into nature. And, I surround myself with nature, and that's my higher power, So, and I do the same thing. I swap the words out whenever I'm reading in my head. I'm like, so it's higher power or the creator or,
Mine has changed 3 times.
Then what you call it?
Yeah. At first, when they said a higher power, I literally said, yeah, that's my parole officer. She controls my life. She can come in my house whenever she wants. She can ask me to pee on command. She can send me back or not. And I really thought of that at 6 months when I got off parole. I just changed it to the group. I was like
GOD, group of drunks.
Yep, that's exactly what I changed
What's
it to.
What's the other one? GOD.
Good orderly direction.
Good orderly direction. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I changed it to the group because I came to trust them extremely. And it was crazy because my first sponsor was wicked spiritual. Like, it seemed to me that like he just got the program instantly. And he only had 1 more year sober than me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was a year sober when he became my sponsor. I got turned down the first 2 times. I asked somebody to be my sponsor. The first guy said, no way. And he's like, I have too many right now. And I honestly thought I was a girl.
Okay.
Because I was the only girl. And then the second person said, I don't sponsor, but I'll help you with your 5th step. And they did. And they taught me the big book.
Cool.
Because I'm sitting here talking about meth. And she's like, I don't know anything about this drug, but do you know the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous? And I was like, not really. And because I didn't have a sponsor.
Right.
And I knew what we said in meetings, but I didn't know the book, and she taught me the big book. And so she kind of stayed with me. And then when I asked my first sponsor to be my sponsor, he was going to meet his son for the first time in his life since he was divorced. At 77. And he got sober at 76, which is very rare. And he's like, if the trip goes well, I'll be your sponsor. So every day I'm praying for this trip to go well. Because who gets turned down 3 times, right? And so I'm praying and he comes back and I was like, are you going to be my sponsor? He's like, yes, Julie, it was a good trip. And I was like, oh, thank God,
Interesting.
Yeah. And I had already been through 11 steps before I got him. Yeah, so it was
You're
great.
well on your way.
Yeah.
I kept doing them on my own. I did the first step in treatment. I did a book, and then I kept going and getting Hazelton guides at the Unigroup. This is when it was in Northwest Portland even. And I would just go and I would get the guide. And I did my first 4-step, the Hazelton guide. And it got stolen out of my car right in front of MCC Church. They broke in my window. It was in my backpack. I was on my way to work. They took my money orders. I didn't have a bank account yet. I'm out of prison. And they took my Christmas cards that I had written, put stamps on, my fucking 4-step.
Rude.
And I was like, enjoy that reading, bitches, right? And they took that. And I remember the old guys going out and they're taping up my window so that I can drive back to Beaverton. And the next day, the guy that turned me down, the first one, comes in and says, well, since they took your 4-step, I think you need to do this one. And it was this big. And it had, And so when I did my 5th step with that one, she was like, holy shit, who made you do this? And we had met 3 times. Smoking was still allowed in restaurants. And I had quit smoking, I don't know, 6 months into the program, something around there. And she was smoking. So I went in and I bought a pack of cigarettes. And I had 2 cigarettes with her doing my 5th step. And I've never smoked since then. And it was crazy. I was like, if this bitch is smoking and I'm spilling my life, I'm fucking smoking too. Yeah. And she's not a bitch. She's actually one of the best people I've ever met. But you know what I'm saying? I'm just like, yeah. And it was on the Village Inn on Broadway.
Oh.
Yeah. That breakfast spot.
Yep.
Yep. It's crazy. Yeah.
You did a lot on your own. That's interesting.
I was scared. I'm going to tell you, I was really scared. Like, I can't tell you the amount of fear I had. I just didn't want to fuck up, and my daughter's never seen me get high. That's a big blessing for me. Luckily, when I did get high, she was less than 2. So she doesn't remember, even though I told her, but she doesn't have that image. And then instead of a relationship, I had a relationship with my child. She kept me so busy. So it was really good. I was never not busy. And that was a blessing, and it wasn't a complicated relationship. It was a good relationship. So.
And you sponsor as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Just recently started doing that. And my sponsor had been encouraging me repeatedly for a long time. And I didn't. And based on what we were talking about with the churchy thing, like I felt creepy. Like I did not want to go prey upon newcomers because I needed to get a sponsor. And my sponsor was saying, you need to get a sponsor or you need to get a sponsee. And so I feel like it's like predatory. Like I want to be so sober and I want to have a recovery that people want to come to me.
Right.
And that's how I felt.
Because just like I did to my sponsor, like
I never offered to be anyone's. I'm being honest. I didn't feel, hey, you want me to be your sponsor, Seriously. And Izzy tricked me. Yeah, I went with him. So he was on his 4-step and this girl, Misty, in our group said, Izzy, you always fuck up around the 4-step. You need to get it done, meaning he would relapse. And I was like, look, dude, I will do it with you. We'll go to the grotto and I'll do it with you. And all I did was offer to do that with him. And we got some pizza because we were friends. And we got some pizza and we did his 4th and 5th step. And like a week later, we're in a meeting and he goes, Julie's agreed to be my sponsor. And I was like, it was like when they ask you to marry him in a stadium, and everybody's looking and you're like, okay, yeah,
Smooth.
And, yeah, he checked me.
Very smooth.
Yeah.
And so when I got my second sponsor, I did the same thing. I did the Izzy method. I was like, oh, Don's agreed to be my sponsor. And he goes, okay.
Nice.
But I had known
move.
Don for a long time and he went to court with me. So years before. So I trusted him. So yeah.
Interesting.
I've been lucky. I've only had 2 and I've never had to fire anyone. I hate that. How can you get fired from a non-paid position?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really lucky to stay, like, even though my sponsor's still in LA, like we do a daily text check-in and then I talk to him once a week. And so he's like holding my hand through sponsoring because the people are very different from each other and very different from me. And I have training to be a teacher, where you like,
that's awesome.
But no, like it's not necessarily good for this because like in that you do your homework, you get a grade, you pass or you don't, but this is a lot more.
I have to tell you though, I think in AA, right, what I've seen, okay, I personally talk to my sponsor every morning, okay, every single morning. I set my day out that way. And if he doesn't call me, he's in trouble. I'm just saying that, but I talk to my sponsor every day. And the thing I love about Izzy is, and I've seen that this is almost what it takes to work for some people, Izzy checked in every day for 2 years with me. I would leave fucking big ass meetings to take his call just to make sure he was okay. But I saw him fucking doing the work. Does that make sense? Like I see you doing the work. And I will tell you, I have a person that I don't see them doing that every day, right? And I think when you're newly sober, you have to put in the work, So I do think the homework is applicable. And just like we said, because I was scared, I kept getting the guides. How bad do you want it? Do you want it so bad that you're turned down twice and you go to Unigroup and you ask them, what do you fucking do next? Because you're in a gay men's meeting and you're the only bitch. I'm just saying, like, really, what do you do? So I don't know.
Yeah.
So Chris, I want to know, like, is there anything you want to tell to anybody, like, about recovery? Like, on your way out? Like, is there any words of wisdom or message of hope or anything like that you want to give?
Kind of relating to the sponsor and the work that we were just talking about. Before we really started working on the steps, my sponsor's first like homework for me was like, check in with me every day by text. He and I both, neither of us like, phone calls, or he's just so busy.
No, that's what we did.
And so I was like so stoked that I could do it via text. But he said, send me a text every day with your gratitudes and something good, something bad, and how you were of service. And so I'm in rehab still. And, I wasn't able to do it every day at first, like I would forget or whatever, but then pretty soon, what is good, oh, it's easy, that's kind of like same as gratitudes.
Right.
And then what is bad, oh, well, I couldn't sleep last night because this jerk was like making too much noise. And then service, I cleaned somebody else's cup in the sink, but it became an everyday thing. And then it evolved into step 10, the daily inventory.
Mm-hmm.
And the gratitude list, so pretty soon then the homework was, send this gratitude list to other people, get phone numbers of other newcomers and send their gratitude, get their gratitude list and stuff like that. And so early on, there was this rewarding work where at the end of the day, which is what's best for me, I do this inventory and I still do it, 2 years in, where I go chronologically through my day and, chronologically go like, what am I grateful for? So sometimes it's a kind of a long list.
Right.
Sometimes if I'm having a bad day, I have to really think about it. But inevitably, when I get into that mindset of like, what happened today that I'm actually grateful for, the list happens.
Right.
And then the good, bad, and service has evolved into what are like recovery goals? Like, is there anything that I've been working on that happened today, or some progress?
I love that.
Or a lot of times it's awareness. A lot of the big wins for me are just having awareness of something like sooner instead of like in retrospect, like a week later. And then the bad is my character defects. Like what character defects fucked me up today?
I hate the word defects.
Character opportunities.
What are your opportunities? It just makes it sound like, I used to, when I managed the company, I would tell an agent in a coaching session, hey, this is one of the opportunities we have to work on. And I just think it sounds so much better than your defect. I'm just being honest. I don't like that part, but I think the 10th step is probably the most important step as one continues in sobriety. Mm-hmm. Own your shit when you're wrong. Like, own it. And I have to tell you, even though I've been sober a long time, you'll hear me at meetings. I don't have it all together. Mm-hmm. I'm still working on it. I never once think that I know it all because God knows I don't. Mm-hmm. I never think that that I can tell somebody this or that, right? I can just myself, you know what I mean? I don't judge your program. I got to focus on my own. Mm-hmm. I can be there for you, but I can't judge it because everybody's different. Mm-hmm. What I need might not be what you need, mm-hmm. And I've seen people do it a million different ways, which is an amazing thing, and I've really learned that because I used to think, well, if you don't do it like I did, are you going to,
Well, that's the control coming out.
Yeah.
I think we have these control issues as addicts.
Yeah. It's like somebody recently said an online meeting doesn't count. Okay, well, fuck you. Because they sure the hell count for me.
Yeah, maybe for you, but I'm different. Yeah. And I also think, I love the gratitude list. I get one every day from someone in our group and I just love it.
You can say his name, Manolo.
But I find that I have, it's become automatic for me now that I appreciate the artist, or I view things in a different lens instead of, it used to be very negative. I could look at a person who cut me off and I would have a story for him, this person is this. And now, I've turned that around and I see things in a more positive way. Mm-hmm. And I try to think, well, I don't know their paradigm. I don't know where they're coming from,
Mhm.
you know? So how can I build that whole story, that backstory for them, you know?
Mhm.
So
Yeah. And like doing that daily thing, like for early recovery, I think it was a like primer, like a little fuel for willingness. Like this isn't that hard to do, but the payoff had started pretty quick because like I was prone to depression when I was using, but like now every day, like I make myself think of something,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And also that character opportunities, right? Julie? Those by putting those down every day and telling my sponsor about them, it kind of normalized it. And so these things that I used to hate about myself that I would get
You can
fucked
work
up.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, this
Yeah.
isn't such a big
And
deal.
they become less of an opportunity.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree with you. I send out my gratitude list every day.
I don't get it.
You don't. I have to tell you, I
don't get it either. So don't feel
okay.
bad.
and neither
Okay.
does my sponsor. I didn't do it until I went to IOP
Oh,
at 25 years sober. When I went back to work, I didn't ever want to lose connection with the group. And so I agreed to do the gratitude list every day with Phoenix, Colette, and Marty.
Oh.
And so for over 2 years, those are the three. Now I have some people that send it to me, the same as Peter, and I'll send mine to them. But for me, sending it to 40 people wears me out. Getting 40 wears me out. But I've stayed with Phoenix, Colette, and Marty no matter what. They're like the first three I do no matter what. And then I will say I've added 3 people to that list, but the phone, I don't use the phone. Like I can ignore my phone for an entire day and not look at it. So it's the phone is not glued to me. So I don't know. And because I worked, I couldn't have them always interrupting and my phone going off 65 times. Yeah.
yeah. It definitely takes a lot of time to send to people. But for me, it's part of like a ritual where with my job, I'm gone a lot. And so like,
Keeps you connected.
yes, I spend that time. Like it's a lot of times it's I go to bed before people do their end of day lists. And then throughout the day, like I'll be sitting in an airport for a little bit of time. There's so many opportunities in my day where I'm otherwise would be like reading the news or something or checking.
I don't watch the news.
Doom
Facebook.
scrolling.
Yeah. And so reading those gratitude lists ends up being something that I do because someone sent it.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I see it. That's really good.
And also sometimes you can see a trend, like if somebody can reveal in their list that they're not doing so great, and that's an invitation to like reach out.
I actually answer. That's the other thing. I actually answer back. Like that person sends a quote. I'll be like, that's a good one today. Or I missed you at Tuesday night's meeting. Or I see that something's upsetting someone. How is that? Or like Phoenix, when he says he's walked along the river that day, I'm like, that sounds so good today, or like I kind of comment back to not just heart it and move on from the day. So that is another reason why I keep it short. And the people that I send it to, and I also, me personally, end up every gratitude list with, I'm grateful my recovery. So even if it's a shitty day, I'm fucking sober and somebody else isn't going to get it no matter what they do. Okay. But I am sober, and there's 2 things that like right now, currently, that win the lottery or have this, I'm taking this. And that is going to a meeting with my daughter is like fucking 1 to 10. It's 100 right now for me, and being sober. I wouldn't trade all the money in the world for those 2 things. Period.
That's beautiful.
No, it's like you're going to have money, but these are the most important things, right? You can't buy them. So like, I don't know. So I'm grateful every day for that.
In a way, it's how I feel like connecting with my higher power, even walking the dog. And I'm not just down here with my face, to the ground. I'm looking around. I'm looking at, look at the birds over there. Look at I'm connecting with my environment in a positive way.
Peter loves the squirrels.
I do love my squirrels. And, they don't care who's president. They don't care what's, war is going on. And, they're just here doing their thing. The trees are just going to grow no matter what happens in our. So to me, that just it's like a relief to me. It's like, I don't have to be so about everything that's happening in my life or get so agitated or angry or tense or whatever it is. Because at the end of the day, look at the trees. They're not getting tense over it, so why should you,
Do you do that every day?
I do pretty much every day. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
It's been a journey to get there, but now it's, I feed my squirrels every day. So there's a reminder that there they are,
And staying in today is not something I used to be able to do, but going through all the stuff I've been through for the last couple of years, I try so hard to what can I do for today? What can I do for this day? Like, it's going to be the podcast, did I have this call? What am I working on? I can get carried away sometimes, but I'm so much better at it if I just be like, well, what's important for today? What can I accomplish for today and not, take on the world?
I also I meditate every day. And part of my meditation is a visualization where I visualize, it's a tongue twister, a mountain and being a mountain. And the mountain doesn't care about the seasons that passed. It doesn't care about the season coming. It's just present. It's just there in the moment.
And it's part of our logo.
And I kind of did that on purpose, but trees and mountains, they're just there. They're present. They're in the moment. And for me, that works, that visualizing that. Of course, we have Mount Hood right here. So it's very easy to put that vision in my head. And as I meditate and holding that and not regretting the past or future tripping about what's coming, I still do it. I mean, I'm not perfect, but that helps me.
I used to say in the past a lot. Seriously, and what can you change in the past?
Right.
And then I used to worry about the future, right? But it's not even here yet. And honestly, things can turn around.
Anything can happen.
You can have a meeting and they'll pay you to leave, right? And you'll be the happiest person when you thought it, like it can just change. And it's crazy. So, you can prepare for the future, but I don't think that worrying about it is going to do you any good. Yeah. You can just focus on what you can do for today. And I love how you stay connected. That's good. And I love that you stay connected when you're working as well.
That routine, that thing that started off when I was before even step one, when I first met my sponsor, that thing has built into that connection. There's so many benefits of doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I go to a lot of meetings. Some people can go to less, some people get acclimated. For me, because I'm so high strung and, I can be high maintenance.
Really? Just kidding.
Listen, Peter. No, because I need a little bit more, I know that one meeting a month isn't going to work for me. And if I go, I would say for me personally, more than 5 days without a meeting, I get in my head. It's not that I get antsy or want to use, I get in my fucking head. And then I'll go to a meeting and they'll talk about acceptance. And I'll be like, yes, bitch, that's what you need today. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I feel like another miracle or a spiritual coincidence of my recovery is the fact when I moved here to Portland, I found this meeting, but how lucky am I that you guys all set this meeting up to be a daily meeting? Right as soon as I started going, how fast it was that I made connections there.
Do you know it wasn't like that in the beginning?
Really?
It was Monday through Friday at noon. I literally had a fucking breakdown on a Friday. This is when I was new, maybe 6 months, 5 months. And I was like, I really have a hard time on the weekends, right? And they were like, and I couldn't breathe in the meeting. I was just like, it was hard for me on the weekends when they weren't there. And so they extended the meeting to Saturday and Sunday. And the reason the meeting is at Sunday at 1 is because we used to be in a place where it was originated. There was church service from 12 to 1. So a lot of us would go to church from 12 to 1 and then go to the meeting.
Okay.
And then Jen L got a job and I switched, and then we started the meeting and it was at 5:30. And then some people couldn't make it that worked 8 to 5. So it went to 6. And then we weren't on Zoom until COVID.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, COVID, if all the bad that it did, the one positive that came out of it was Zoom, I think, and being able to do.
People at nighttime or daytime go to meetings from the hospital. Al in the, assisted living center. Some guys were scared to come out, some of the older guys. Mm-hmm. And I think that has been the biggest blessing.
Well, being able to be connected if you move or you're traveling or
last year during
you just pop in and you're like, I'm home.
Last year during the ice storm,
Yeah.
The Zoom room, there was one person in the church and Jonah walked to the fucking church to do the meeting. I was like, and this is when he was newly sober and he killed it. Like, I was like, I cannot believe you walked there tonight. And that's actually when we started becoming friends. And I was just like, I'm letting people in the Zoom room, right? And it's like, there was 3 of us letting people in the room for the beginning of the meeting. But I think Zoom, especially for me, I don't not have an excuse to go to the meeting because I don't have to drive there. I don't know that I would drive there every night.
Right.
Yeah. Extended family has become a new thing for me, probably in the last 2.5 years of going online. And now
convenient.
It's convenient as fuck. And it's so easy and you don't have to waste gas and you don't have to drive through traffic.
Yeah. Although I will say for me, I do like that personal interaction.
So do I. I like the combination.
Really, and I also love the fellowship too. We have fellowship after the meeting, but also because of the people that are in our group have become more than just people in the meeting. They've become friends, and even extended family, as the name is very appropriate. And so we do things, outside of the meetings, and it for me, my recovery, it's become a life thing. Obviously the podcast. I've got people I do outside of recovery things together. We support each other. It's like going to out dancing to a club or whatever. I've got my sober crew, to help me through. It's
and I won't let anyone pick on you.
Exactly.
I would whip their ass.
Wingman.
Can I tell you? When I hear from some of the guys that they were picked on or made fun of in school, and I'm just like, I wish I was your friend back then. I would have risked going to the principal's office for you.
That's awesome.
I didn't get picked on.
No.
Yeah. I want to thank you I know you had a busy day today and only 24 hours notice. I really want to thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
I just
really
from the bottom of my heart.
Very wonderful.
This has been a great discussion too. And I love how much recovery we focused on, in all these different aspects. Your point of view, Peter, yours, mine. I just think that is great because it just shows how different we can all be, but the same. You don't have to believe in God to get recovery. You don't have to. There's all different ways. All 3 of us have done it differently. How amazing is that?
It makes me so thankful for having a home group. It's just a miracle that it's such an engaging group of people that we get to go all the time. And
our group is so open too. Like, it is, I've been to a lot of meetings in a lot of places, and I keep coming back to this meeting as my foundation because it is so accepting.
Yeah, and there's characters like you guys there. That makes it fun for me.
You too now.
Oh, we've got some characters in our group. It's some of them.
We really do.
have been
Yeah.
on our podcast even.
Yeah. We love it. And that's,
lucky.
That's
Yeah.
the amazing thing. So thank
Together
you.
we are stronger.
We are. What we can do together, we cannot do alone.
Exactly.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. This is Julie.
And Peter,
And
Chris,
thank you so much for being here. And thanks everyone for listening.
thanks, guys.
That's a wrap on today's episode. Thanks to each and every one of you for lending us your ears and hearts. Your engagement is what fuels our passion and keeps this podcast thriving.
We cherish the moments we share here and hope they resonate with you, whether you're on a daily commute, at the gym, or just taking a moment for yourself.
Make sure to head over to our website at realrecoverypodcast.com. While you're there, subscribe to our newsletter for the latest insights and uplifting stories from our community delivered straight to your inbox.
Click that subscribe button on your favorite podcast player too, so you can keep up with every new episode. It's your support that keeps our conversation alive and meaningful.
And if our stories have touched you, consider using the donate button on our site. Your contributions, no matter the size, are deeply appreciated. They help us continue our mission of sharing hope and healing.
Join us beyond the podcast and follow our journey on social media. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, and on X, formerly known as Twitter. All the links are on our site, so you can stay connected and be a part of the Real Recovery community every day.
Your likes, shares, and comments not only spread the message of recovery, but also remind us that we're all in this together.
So, until we meet again, remember that recovery is a journey, not a destination, and we'll be here to accompany you every step of the way to recovery, real recovery.
Thanks for listening.